Everybody for being on today. We've got a really good class with Tiffanie. She is with a local attorney's office in the Atlanta area, and they're going to go over what happens behind the scenes during a real estate transaction up until closing and through closing. So again, thank you everyone for being on today. We've got a couple new agents on with us, so welcome. I want to really quickly, Violetta, hello and welcome. I want to quickly just share my screen, and I want to pull up our dashboard here. Let's see. Okay, so if y'all can everybody see the dashboard here? You can put it in chat or just unmute yourself. Yes. Okay, perfect. So this is our dashboard. We are constantly updating our dashboard, and this is just kind of your landing page with Zach Taylor Real Estate. It keeps you up to date on what's going on. It keeps you up to date on the benefits of being with our brokerage. It keeps you up to date on our live closings and our agents and all the things. Our announcements go here. We have a agent lounge here where people can promote listings. You can request open houses. I promoted our monthly meeting here. Lots and lots of good things go on this dashboard. So I want to make sure y'all are very familiar with the dashboard. And again, it's ever changing. So if you looked at it a month ago, it probably looks a little different today. So again, just keep on getting on that. We want to encourage our agents to be on that and really take advantage of what we have worked on here and what we're offering our Georgia agents. A couple quick reminders and updates for the month. Email or text me if you are not getting the meeting reminder email and text message. I had an agent from the Nashville office or Murfreesboro office reach out to me this week saying he wasn't getting the emails reminders. I know all of our Atlanta area agents are getting them, but if you are a Tennessee agent or within another state and you want to be on our reminder list, like you enjoy these meetings, trainings, all you have to do is just shoot me a text or shoot me an email, and I'll make sure that you get on our reminder list. Another reminder, all Georgia trainings are now uploaded to the dashboard. We're no longer using Thinkific. So if you go here to training, we've got look right here, probably 150 lessons where we've got, video, we've got information, just really good stuff that we want y'all to dive into. And this is all free for our agents. It's here for you. So definitely set some time aside and take advantage of those things. A couple other announcements. We have now hit 580 agents across our state. So congratulations to us, gearing up to be at the 600 mark. So this means for you that we've got lots of referral opportunities. We've got lots of different levels of agents within our brokerage that you can collaborate with, you can connect with, and the sky is the limit. I say this all the time for real estate, but the sky's the limit. So we're here to support y'all. And again, we've got a lot of agents backing us now to be able to have lots of different opinions. If you have questions, you can ask me, of course, but I want y'all to utilize this agent lounge with questions as well. You've got a question here. Does anybody have a good recommendation of a home warranty company? And we've got agents' responses here. So again, I just want to encourage y'all to be committed to the brokerage and collaborate with other agents now that we've grown so large. Another reminder, we are offering our agents a $500 bonus if you refer an agent and they join our brokerage. So if you know of another agent that's paying too much in commission splits or just would be a good addition to our team, especially our Georgia team, we're always looking for good people, good agents, then make a recommendation for them to come over. I'm happy to talk with them. And again, if you make that referral, you get $500. And of course, we'll also save them a lot of money too. Our benefits are updated in the dashboard as well. And let's see, I think this is here. Our resources. I'm actually not sure where that is at. But I do know our benefits are updated in our dashboard, and we have a benefit booklet. If any of y'all have questions on like everything that we offer, I'm happy to email that to y'all. Live closings are now visible, as you can see here. Congratulations to all of our agents that have got closings. The market is definitely heating up, and we're seeing that in our brokerage with the amount of closings that we've got. Going into this spring market with a little bit lower interest rates. Coming soon to the dashboard, we have a task management option, commission calculator, mortgage payment calculator, and also want to remind y'all that all of our trainings and events go on this calendar here on the dashboard. So if you're questioning when we have events, when we have trainings, just check that calendar or shoot me an email or text message. And then last but not least, our event for our in-person event for our agents this month are going to be our award ceremonies. We've got one in our Murfreesboro office, one in Chattanooga. We don't have a Georgia specific award ceremony. If it is something that y'all would be interested in attending, just let me know and I'll get that prepped and planned for next year. But for right now, you can go to Chattanooga or the Murfreesboro office if you do want to attend our awards ceremonies. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and want to go ahead and welcome on Tiffanie. She is an attorney. Is it Hawes Law Firm or Hayes? Hawes. Okay. Hawes. All right. Well, I'm going to welcome Tiffanie, and I've told her she can take her liberty, and she's going to give us some really good information on what happens in the closing process for our agents. Take it away, Tiffanie. Hey, Tiffanie, I'm sorry. I think you are muted. Let's see.
I'm having so many. Let's see. Hold on. Yes.
All right, you're good. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so I was trying to my video for some reason on my laptop is not working. So I was trying to have my phone, but obviously it's too much. So you just won't be able to see me right now, but you don't need to see me to be able to get good information.
Okay.
So just a little bit about myself. My name is Tiffanie Hawes. I've owned my own real estate law practice since 2014 when I graduated law school, but I've been in the industry since 2006. So 20 years this year being in real estate. One thing about real estate is once you get in, you're kind of stuck, and this is what you just end up doing for the rest of your life. And that happened with me as well. Being in this industry, there's new stuff that we learn all the time. And in real estate, things can kind of get frustrating, whether it's with the lender, whether it's with your title company or closing attorney. And I find that a lot of the frustration stems from people just not understanding the process and the things that go into clearing title or what the closing attorney does. Because there are so many nuances that if one thing is not done, it explains why something happened or why something was delayed. So I've put together a booklet that kind of goes over what the process is. So I am going to share my screen. Hold on. Where is the booklet? Let's see here, not that. Where is uh, can y'all see this?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, so it's going to go through the closing process and what we do as closing attorneys. Now, in Tennessee, I believe Tennessee is a closing attorney state as well, so we pretty much kind of mirror things in Tennessee and Georgia. But if you're in other states and you have it's a title company state, it essentially is all the same thing. We all do the exact same thing, so it doesn't matter if it's a title state or if it's a closing attorney state. So there are several processes that go into what we do as closing attorneys. So we're first going to go over our pre-closing, then we'll go over our closing, our post-closing, our title process, what happens if probate comes up, and then just a little bit about our office and the things that our office does. Okay. The pre-closing process. The following steps in the closing attorney process begins once the attorney's office receives the contract. So you know it's a part of your process whether you have a transaction coordinator or not, but once the contract goes once it goes binding, you typically send it to your closing attorney and to your lender if there's a lender involved. When we get the contract, these are the steps that we go through in our office in order to make sure that the transaction stays smooth. When we first get the contract, we verify whether or not it's been properly executed. Failure to properly execute a contract can cause closing delays. If there are multiple sellers, all sellers must sign the contract. Issues that come up with this, if sellers are getting divorced and you're only communicating with the wife, well, if the husband also is the owner of the property, he also has to sign off on that contract. Failure for both parties to sign off on the contract will cause your contract to be voidable. And you don't want that to happen because all parties must agree to sell a home. If the buyer or seller is a company, they are not to sign the contract as their individual name. They have to sign the contract, their individual name on behalf of the company. Because if that company, 123 LLC, owns the property and Tiffanie Hawes just signs the contract without naming that company, I don't own the contract. I don't own the house as Tiffanie Hawes individually. So is the contract properly executed? Did the correct party sign the contract? Can that contract be voidable? It can. Now, if it was Tiffanie Hawes as managing member of 123 LLC, now that contract was properly executed. It seems very minor, but it can cause problems. If the seller is an estate, like an executor or administrator, they must sign the same way as an executor or administrator of the estate. They cannot just sign their personal name. They cannot just sign estate of so-and-so. It has to be their name as what they are to what the entity is, if that makes sense. Okay?
Yes.
A lot of times, y'all know that when you're closing attorney or title company, they will send out buyer and seller information sheets. Those seem minor. It seems like, oh, this is just what you need. But what is on those sheets is what our office needs in order to clear title if issues come up. It's in order to order HOA closing letters if a CAD is not attached to the contract because we need the information. For sellers, if the seller it's really important to have the seller information sheet filled out completely because this is where we gather information to order mortgage payoffs. We cannot order a mortgage payoff without the seller giving us their loan number, without them telling us which lender services their loan because they may have closed with Wells Fargo when they first bought the property, but now the servicer may be Mr. Cooper. The servicer may be Planet Home Lending. It could be somebody totally different. And the closing attorney has no way of knowing who to order the payoff unless we get the information from the seller. So let's say you go binding on January 1. You're supposed to close January 27th. Let's say the seller just keeps delaying getting the information sheet to us and they don't get it to us until January 25th. Well, we go to order the payoff, and now the lender is saying, oh, it takes us 5 to 7 days to issue a payoff statement. Well, now we're past 5 to 7 days, that's beyond our closing date, right? And so now it's problematic. So it seems minor to get this information as soon as possible, but it can cause delays. So if your client is a seller, when you have your listing appointments, it's important that you set the expectations. Once we go binding, your closing attorney, it doesn't matter if it's us or any other office, we all have the same processes. They're going to ask you for information, and it is imperative that you get that information to them because your failure to get it to them can cause delays in closing. And we don't want our sellers or buyers being in default. Same thing with the buyer. I know y'all probably have the conversation with the buyer about the lender. When the lender asks you for something, you get it, you make that a priority and you get it to them ASAP because if it takes you 4 or 5 days to get that to your lender, that's going to delay the financing process. And now you're going to be out of your financing contingency and you're going to lose your earnest money. We don't want that to happen. So it's important to just to have that conversation with your sellers that, hey, when they get the contract, fill out that information ASAP. We just don't want any delays. Okay. There are sections in the seller information sheet where we ask for their social. We ask if they have a divorce going on. We ask them if there's somebody deceased that was on title, because this will give us the head start on clearing issues if we have to clear an issue. Okay. If the seller is an out-of-state seller, this is for Georgia. In states like Alabama, they're not required to do this. But in the state of Georgia, if you're not a Georgia resident and you're selling property in the state of Georgia, the closing attorney's office has to collect 3% of the profit and send that to the Georgia Department of Revenue. Now, FIRPTA applies to every state. That means if you are not a U.S. citizen, then the closing attorney has to collect 15% based on the purchase price. So if you're dealing with a foreign seller, there's a lot of people from Israel. There's a lot of people from, we have like a lot of Chinese foreign nationals. They'll come and they'll buy properties. A lot of their children go to Georgia Tech. And then when their children graduate, they will go to sell the property and they're not aware that they have to pay 15% of the purchase price to the IRS because they're not US citizens. And so if you deal with foreign people as your niche in this real estate industry, then you have to know about FIRPTA. And on that seller information sheet, we ask them if they are a foreign or if they are a United States citizen, so that if they are, we can go ahead and get the information to them so that they can start filling that out and understanding what that process looks like. All right. So the next thing we're going to go to is if the property is a cash sale and what that process looks like. We will order title once the buyer has made it through due diligence. And when we order the title and it comes back, we check to see if there's any liens on the property. If there's a lien that shows up. So if your client is James Brown is a common name. And so there might be 15 liens that show up in James Brown's name. It doesn't mean that it's your client that's James Brown. So how do we determine whether or not your James Brown is the same James Brown that this lien showed up in? We verify all the liens. And how do we verify that? We verify that with your client's social security number. So if we get title back and there's 15 liens on there and we still don't have the seller's information sheet, what are we delaying now? We're delaying title clearance, right? And we don't want to delay title clearance. Once we get the seller information sheet, we're ordering the payoffs. We're contacting water departments to make sure that there's no delinquent water bills. We're contacting the HOAs, getting an HOA closing letter that outlines what fees are associated with purchasing in that neighborhood. If the buyer is using a lender, we perform all the same duties that we just did with a cash transaction. However, the lender is asking us to provide them the title search, which is a title commitment. And they use that and it goes through their underwriting process just to make sure that if they ever had to foreclose on you, that they would have first lien position to do that. Once we clear the title, once we've sent everything to the lender, once we review to make sure that everything that you guys had in your contract, so if you negotiated a home warranty, if there's an invoice that the seller stated in the special stipulations that they had to pay for, let's say, a roof or something, we make sure we collect all that information. And this is when we go through the process of closing. So, for a lender transaction, once we get an initial CD from a lender, then we do a pre-closing audit. That's making sure that we everything in the contract we have, making we're reviewing all the amendments to make sure that all the amendments make it on the settlement statement. We're reviewing the HOA closing letter, the home warranty, your commission agreements. And it's really important that you get over commission agreements because a lot of times y'all might have additional fees that might be on the buyer side. I'm seeing a lot of transaction coordinator fees that are on the buyer side, or maybe the agent is getting additional funds for maybe you paid for some things from the buyer. And if we don't get those commission agreements to the last minute and we're already balancing with the lender, now we have a balanced CD. The lender has sent the buyer and said, hey, the buyer's cash to close is $7,500. Well, now you've sent us the commission agreement late, and there's an additional fee of $565 for your admin fee. Well, the lender has already called the buyer and told them how much money that they have to bring. Now we revise the settlement statement, and the lender makes the call, and now the buyer is asking, well, what is this fee? Where did this additional 565 come from? Now you went over it in the beginning, but now you're drawing more attention to it because the numbers changed. And what does that do with a buyer?
They-
It frustrates them. What does it
Yep.
do with the seller? It frustrates them. So even getting commission agreements over as soon as possible, it seems like it's not a big task, but it can become problematic for you guys with your clients if there's additional fees that need to be added onto them. So once we go through all of that and the file is reviewed and we balance everything between the lender, then now we're working on like the settlement statement. Now with the lender, we'll go back and forth for a little bit. Before a cash closing, we're just putting everything on the settlement statement and then we are sending that out. The common things that often get missed is fees on the commission agreement, admin fees, transaction coordinator fees, home warranties that are not sent prior to closing. With the home warranty, when y'all go through your due diligence period and you fill out the amendment to address concerns, sometimes the closing attorney is not sent that document. And when the closing attorney is not sent that document, maybe on that document, that's when you added that the seller would provide the buyer a home warranty. So if we're not provided the amendment to address concerns, we never know that there is a home warranty on the file now. So we're not asking you for an invoice. And let's say at closing, you don't review the settlement statement, so you don't even realize that the home warranty invoice is missing. Now we've closed and we've dispersed. And now the buyer has a problem with their HVAC. And you're like, oh, the seller paid for your home warranty at closing. It's not an issue. So then you're like, well, who's the home warranty company? So you call the closing attorney's office and we're like, well, we had no idea that there was a home warranty. And you're like, oh no, it was on the amendment to address concerns. When did y'all send that? You didn't, right? And you didn't check the settlement statement either. And so now we have to try and go back to the seller, and that's going to be very difficult to get them to pay for your home warranty. So then guess what ends up happening? You as the agent fail to get it to the closing attorney. You might have to eat that and you might have to purchase your buyer a home warranty. I'm only telling you, you don't have to do anything, but in order to get your referrals and make sure that your client leaves happy, sometimes you end up may having to bite the bullet and do that. And so I'm just bringing it to your attention because these are the things that we see often, right?
Yep.
Post closing. So once a file has closed, the file goes to the post closing department. The post closer will witness and notarize all documents. A lot of lenders will require funding authorization, so we'll send those documents to the funder. The post closer will create and scan the executed settlement statement. At our office, we send it out automatically as soon as you close because we know that you guys have a process where you have to be in compliance and you have to upload those things. And so we just make sure that you have an electronic copy as soon as things close. We will scan the packaging. So we have everything scanned in. We're a complete paperless office once everything is closed out. So if you ever need something after closing, it's really easy for us to get access to. And at that time, we'll mail out all checks, and then we'll send um, things to be recorded, like the warranty deed and security deed. Most closing attorneys, if not all, we all electronically file everything. So where it used to take 6 weeks to get things recorded, now it can almost be same day or next day, at least with our office. The title process. These are things, issues that often come up with the title. Whenever we get our title in from the title abstractor, it's a 50-year search. And our first step in title clearance is making sure that the contract matches who the title search says is the vested owner. If the contract has Tiffanie Hawes, but the title search comes back and says that James Brown is the owner of the property, we're asking questions. Well, who is James Brown? And in that instance, you might say, "Oh, well, Tiffanie Hawes, she's deceased, and James Brown is the executor of the estate." And so then we might ask, "Well, was the estate probated?" And if the estate wasn't probated, then now we have a problem, and now you have to go through a whole nother process. But if the estate was probated, then we simply ask, like, "Hey, can you provide us a copy of the probate docs?" Once we go through all of that and make sure we have the necessary documents, if everything is clear, then that first title process is done. We make sure that the title order that the lender sends over matches the buyer's name on the contract. If you have two buyers on the contract, but the lender is only has one buyer on their title search, well, now we need to find out, is one of the buyers just going to be on the title and not on the loan? Is the lender is the lender allowing both of the parties to be on the title? If they're not, do we need to do a deed after the fact, after it closes, and add on a spouse? So there's several questions that may come up when the buyer's name doesn't match either. When the title comes in, we review any open mortgages, any liens. We have to go through a process with our title insurance underwriter to make sure that they're okay with the title so that we can issue title insurance. Common title issues that come up, open mortgages that haven't been canceled in prior owners' names. And how we typically get through that is we contact the prior attorney who handled the closing. We ask them if they issued an owner's title insurance policy. If they did, we're able to clear the lien fairly quickly. However, if that seller did not get an owner's title insurance policy, we may have to go through the process of getting a cancellation. That can take months sometimes. So it's always important that as an agent that you encourage your buyer to get owner's title insurance, because when they go to sell the property, you never know what can come up, right? Federal tax liens. It's hard to get payoffs for federal tax liens because of the IRS is the IRS. Y'all know who they are. I don't have to explain that to you. But they often, those type of issues come up. In Fulton County, if you don't pay your property taxes, they will sell your property taxes to this company called Investa. And so we'll have to get Investa payoffs that are online. Legal description issues. Anytime you have a buyer that's purchasing land, I encourage you to have the seller, as a part of your negotiations, provide a new survey because there's so many issues that come up with legal description on land only properties. And so that's problematic. Let's see here. Um, Maybe sometimes a deed is incorrectly executed. How do we get over those issues? If the seller has an owner's title policy, a lot of those things can be cleared with the seller simply having an owner's title insurance policy. The title insurance companies have agreements amongst each other. So if one title insurance company insures the property, then another title insurance, simply because they insured it, they will also insure the title issue. And in Georgia, the seller is required to give good and marketable title. Good and marketable title does not mean clear title. It means title that's insurable by a title insurance company. So if a title insurance company insures a property, that title is good and marketable. So it is important that the title insurance companies amongst themselves have this agreement because it allows them to insure property fairly quickly when another one has already done it. Probate matters. Probate is the legal process, that you go through when somebody is deceased. And so, of course, we make sure that that's been done properly. Something that our office does, we do mobile closings. And so we came up with this really honestly during COVID when we all had to be flexible in real estate, when it was difficult for people to come into an office and go to a closing. We were showing up to hospitals, we were showing up to outside people's houses, we were closing people on the trunk of their cars. We were doing whatever was necessary. And we find that during this age, convenience really matters to everybody. Think about it. You don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. You Instacart. You don't have to go anywhere for lunch. You can, Uber Eats or DoorDash, Amazon. You don't have to go shopping anymore. Everything comes to you. It's a convenience. And that's just the world that we live in. So we have a mobile department where we also come to you. We will figure it out. We are flexible. Um, as an agent, you can help make sure your mobile closing is smooth by asking in advance if you have an idea of what space you want to close at so that we can figure all that out. We can do that. Another thing that's important, here's a copy of a settlement statement. It is super important that you go over the settlement statement. The closing attorney or title company, we are not non-human. We can make mistakes. We can miss something. And this is a group project. And so when you're at closing, or if you don't have time to make it to your closing, you need to review the settlement statement, because if it's not on the settlement statement, it does not exist. For instance, we just had a closing last week where the agent, she filled out the commission agreement wrong. She said that it was a total commission of 3% and she was sharing 3% with the buyer's agent. Well, what does that mean for her? That means she's getting 0%. She didn't show up to closing and she didn't review the settlement statement prior. So after closing, she was asking for her check, and we're like, hey, the commission agreement says you weren't getting a check. And she went and looked at it. She's like, "Oh man, I made a mistake. How would we know? We wouldn't know because we only know by what you give to us." Thank God her seller was a good seller. She ended up wiring the money back to our office, and we were able to change the settlement statement and, get everything corrected. However, had she looked at the settlement statement and saw that her commission wasn't there, then we could have made the fix easily. If a home warranty is not on there and you negotiated one, it's very easy to change at the closing the table and adding a home warranty. But if it doesn't show on the settlement statement, that means it doesn't exist. You, as the agent, you know the contract more than our office, more than anyone. So it is super important that you guys put your eyes on the settlement statement to make sure that everything that needs to be there is there. I always talk to agents and I say, make you a little checklist for all the things that you've negotiated so that when you do get the settlement statement, it's a quick and easy, yep, home warranty is here. Yep, commission is here. Yep, transaction coordination fee is here. All my fees are on here. and it makes it really easy for you and to make sure that nothing has to be done post closing. Because if we have to ask people for money after a property already closes, it's very difficult, you know?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have that. So I also put a copy of a sample closing disclosure here. And I put for the seller, and then this is a sample closing disclosure for a buyer. So if you haven't seen one and you wanted to become familiar with it, here's a copy. And I'll send this, I think I already sent it to you, Victoria, the booklet. You can send it to the agents if they want to, just have a copy for their reference.
Could you
Um,
resend that? Because I do not remember seeing.
okay, yeah, I'll resend it to you after
Okay,
this.
thank you.
So just a little bit about me. I've been in business, like I said, since 2014, but been doing this since 2006. The reason why I opened my own practice instead of working for somebody is because when I worked for other closing attorneys, and this is, again, we're talking 20 years ago, it was just very transactional. And it was you're coming to buy a house, sign here, and you leave. And oftentimes, when people are buying a house, it's bigger than a transaction to them. It is sometimes, a lot of times, they may be the first time buying a house out of their whole entire family. They may have just started a family. So buying a house is like a big thing to them. So I wanted to create more of an atmosphere of celebration where we celebrate you, where we have the different things. We put your clothing on a TV, we have all the little extra poppers and different things. We have wine at some of our office locations, just to make this more of a celebratory experience. And that's the thing that I feel separates me and my firm apart from other firms. We all essentially do the same thing. We all ask for the same information, but how you leave the closing table to me really matters. And I want to celebrate you. I want to celebrate your buyers, your sellers, to make sure that they have the best experience. It may not be, it's always rocky because real estate is not smooth. But we try and make the experience at the end as happy as possible. So thank you so much for allowing me to kind of go over that process with you. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. I'll send out my information. You can always, if you have legal questions and you want to shoot me a quick email, I love being a resource to agents so that you can go out here and sell real estate and do it to the best of your ability.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was amazing. I definitely was taking notes on that and learned a lot. I've been doing this, right at 7 years. And I, I feel like I learn stuff every time I talk to people like yourself that are in different facets of real estate. I love learning, and I know our agents are appreciative also. First of all, I love the green dress in your picture. So, so cute. I made a note of that. I'm like, that is so cute. And I just wanted to reiterate, I loved what you said about sending all of your documents and sending them proactively, because I feel like a lot of people, especially if they don't have a TC, they're kind of waiting until everything's finalized to try to like send documents to the closing attorney. I know myself and my TC, as soon as we get a document signed and bound, we have an email thread where it goes to the lender, to the attorney, to the buyer's agent or listing agent immediately. And I think we have slowed down the rocky transactions by just being proactive with that, especially our agents that are wanting to take on multiple listings and multiple buyers at a time. You have to streamline your processes. And I think that's so, so great to just remind us to send all the documents, send them proactively, because we don't want to pay out of pocket for a home warranty. We don't want to take $0 home from a closing that we've worked 30, 40, 50 hours on. And, I think it's so good to, we talk about it, but I think it's just so good to hear that yet again. I did have a quick question. Um, with your office, I know if it's a lender transaction, the process is a little different than a cash transaction.
Mhm.
Are the fees for your office different if you're working with a lender or if it's a cash transaction?
No, it's the same because the liability and the risk is still the same. So there's so much that goes on with, any of the transactions. There is an extra additional step dealing with the lender, but the liability and everything is still the same. So our fees are pretty consistent. There is a difference if there's a refinance, but beyond that, it's still the same.
Okay. All right. Good to know. That was my question. Before I let y'all go, does anybody have any questions for Tiffanie? Uh, she's obviously a very smart attorney and probably can answer, legal questions a lot better than I can. So before we let y'all go today, does anybody have any questions for her?
And if not today, I'm going to send you my contact information. If they want to shoot me an email anytime, it's fine.
Okay. And as soon as you send me that booklet, we do a recap email. So I
Okay.
will include that booklet in with our recap email for our other agents that don't join live. They work other jobs or just are not able to make it at this time. They will definitely watch that. If nobody has any questions, we're going to let everybody go today. I appreciate everyone being on. And again, we'll share Tiffanie and the Hawes firm information with y'all if y'all have any closings in their area. I love the mobile closing option too. That can be such a benefit for specific sellers if they work jobs that they can't get away. If you're
Yes.
working with sellers that maybe sell multiple properties and they're like, I'm tired of wasting 10 hours a week going to and from closings, the mobile option is great as well. So thank you for bringing that up. And I'm sure there's some of our agents that didn't even know that's a possibility. So again, thank you for that. And thank you for everybody for being on today. Thank you again, Tiffanie. And we hope to send you some closing soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thank y'all. Bye bye.